very quickly. That is,
Oh,
unless
wow.
BJ decides to go down very quickly.
We have an immediate engage as BJ has been caught out. As you said, a hook will land onto Huber, but at best it'll be a trade. He gets away, and Cerberus starts strong.
We kind of missed the entire early portion of that because it got skipped basically immediately. If I had to take a wild guess, they basically 5-stacked and happened to get, and we're right back to the same play all over.
The VETV feed does this. It's very annoying. We sometimes get second looks at things.
We do. This is a situation where, once again, it kind of looked like what happened was that BJ was going into scout, and he was on his own, like trying to lay down a ward, and it was a 5-stack, or it was all 5 members of Cerberus ready at the action to be able to go for. And the problem is, it's Braum that you're dealing with. So if it's a Braum, level 1 from Braum's pretty strong because you throw a Q, you have your concussive blows, the rest of the team is behind him. They also burnt Flash and Exhaust for specifically that play, so there's that to consider, as well as the bot lane is a bit more of a target. And who would have possibly guessed? This is exactly what BJ, what are you doing? You can't go running into blind vision like that.
I mean, oftentimes you can, though, right?
Sure.
Oftentimes you get a pretty free Raptor ward. I feel like that's a little... It's lazy from BJ, don't get me wrong. It's very lazy. Yeah. But
I think it's lazy from Saigon. Because if he has more people with him, all of a sudden things get a little bit better. Because it's like, okay, if you've got 2-3 people behind you, I can understand walking in blind, right? But he was by himself. That's why I'm a little bit more criminal with BJ's actions.
I agree. I definitely don't disagree. But in the end, it's not like it's super hard punished. There's no buff stolen, anything like that. It is just the kill, which is nice nonetheless. And BJ's flash being down as well, potentially stopping a level 3 volley flash gank, which is a huge point of power, and it upsets me every time I see Volibears not enter a lane at level 3.
It's one of the most powerful champions to actually work with. It reminds me of the level 2 Trundle Spike, where you used to drop a pillar behind a control mage and they had to flash or they died. Like, that was just how the play ended up going out. And it's very similar, because you can do the exact same thing to control mages, and who would have guessed? There is a control mage in the mid lane to actually bully. So there's that to consider when the time comes. Now, as it pertains to the remainder of the lanes, again, I do want to note Hugh is down flash and exhaust, which means a blitzcrank pull is basically a death sentence into the Braum at this point, which is kind of nice if they're able to capitalize on the level 2, level 3 spike here from Shogun, beginning to get abilities, being able to capitalize on like Gravitum when the time comes on the gun shift, things like that. But other than that, I feel like it's mostly just going to be junglers that are kind of poking back and forth. There's a bit of trading potential in all these lanes, but for the most part, I feel like without BJ showing up or without Fook1 showing up, there's not likely to be the most interaction in the entire world. We're likely to see a lot more calm of a game that's focused around neutral objectives.
Yeah, I completely agree. There is not a huge amount of X factor in these lanes other than the Blitzcrank. Veigar, not a huge amount he can do to Syndra early, but he also should be able to stay safe enough that Yado can't pick up a kill. Top lane, one of them's a tank. Enough said. But these junglers can definitely get things done. BJ is level 4. Nowhere super available for him to gank at the moment. He can't go towards the mid lane, so he will just take his recall.
Yeah, I was curious whether or not BJ would actually go up the top side, because it looked like there's a bit of push actually in the back pocket of Pun. And you can see he's chipped down a little bit, whittled down by Hospit's kind of an early play that's come through from the cannon, just being able to whittle down health of melee champions who come up to farm for CS, even if it is Tahm Kench. But he decided against that just because he wanted to quickly redeploy on the map. He's level 3. He has no flash, so he can't quite make that very, very early flash play that we would like, but it should be up within the next minute or two. And so when that does come through, I would like to see, once again, BJ getting very active, because that's the intention of the Volibear here. You're not trying to scale alongside Fook1. You're really trying to get active.
We have a 3v3 coming in. The Blitzcrank's already used that E. They go immediately forward onto him, but they can't kill him. That first reset does not come through, and now Huber's in trouble as he gets hooked backwards there by Taki. Great awareness by the Crank. So the kill goes over to SGB.
Everything was kind of lost for me in the midst of that team fight. I feel like so many champions were stacked together. I didn't really get to see anything, but all I did see, yeah, it was a mosh pit. But the cool thing is the mosh pit kind of got broken up at the very last second by Taki just yoinking Huber out of everything as he tried to jump back out. And that's what kind of got the first blood for Shogun, as mid lane shenanigans, maybe something. Okay, yeah, it was. Yeah, this is the replay of what actually happened, so I want to see the rest of what happened during the mosh pit. I love the flash out from Taki, because, again, you don't want to trade 1-for-1 on the bottom side. You love that right there. The pull, Huber tries to jump back out, but he's still in the face of Shogun and BJ, so there's no way you're getting out, and kind of deny Fook1's first move into the bottom lane. So it's getting Shogun ahead. It's more pressure to bottom side, which is kind of what we've seen a little bit from Saigon again and again. But now the Volibear, hopefully, when the flash comes back up, is going to be able to continue to utilize that elsewhere on the map.
Hopefully, and just to fill everyone in that maybe missed it, there does seem to be just a little bit of disconnection issues. It looked like Puddin had DC'd, so maybe something a little bit wrong at the Cerberus house. Hopefully things get resolved soon enough. We'll keep you updated. Don't worry, you won't miss any gameplay. Unless we also miss it, which has happened in the past. But Rebel, with this early game swinging back towards SGB in this last bit of play, how do you think this now works out? How do you think this Volibear looks as this game continues?
It's a matter of like, so Fook 1 doesn't really have the way to impact the lanes that you would normally want it to. I think mid lane has actually looked really good for Yado for the first time in the series. Like Syndra has just been bullying the Vigar so far. So if you really want to capitalize on something, I think that's the place you go if you're Fook 1, is just to try to break out Yado, let his Syndra kind of breathe a little bit, and then have the two of them start to make a massive impact. This is a really strange game because we talked about how there's really, really heavily a lack of engage that's there from the side of Cerberus. So you don't necessarily want to take this to super hyper late game type team fighting. Instead, you almost want to kite back in fights and kind of bait for big cooldowns from the Syndra, bait for rockets from the Jinx, that kind of thing. With your pretty impressive front line, that's the best case scenario. You kind of force Saigon to come into you. So there's that to at least consider as the game continues. And again, it's up to the Volibear to kind of throw a wrench into that, because all of a sudden then, you control early dragons, you get, couple K gold advantage from like the Rift Heralds and things along those lines, early dives and such. And all of a sudden fighting into the team, you need even less material from the side of Saigon to really make a pick actually happen, especially if it's like the Vigar and like he gets 200, 300 AP from just his passive and just blows somebody up with a single ability. All of a sudden Cerberus is kind of floundering at that point.
We've been doing a lot of talking already, Rebel, and we don't have much to talk about with this game because it has only just started. So we are going to go over to a little pause screen, but don't worry. As soon as the game is back, we will be back. Don't you worry. We have our eyes on it. We'll keep you updated in chat. We don't know the exact issue, just to let you know. They don't tell us anything, but we'll be back as soon as we can. See you soon. We have returned. Thankfully, it was only a short little one. Again, not 100% sure what the issue was, but we haven't missed anything. I think it looked like just some internet issues. They just had to pause for a little bit and sort it out. But we are back on the Rift.
We are right back where we left off. Nothing too crazy. I do want to know, I think during the bit of the break, Froggy's flash got burnt. I think that wasn't from the prior play, but it was actually from a more recent play where Froggy had to flash away from Yado. So once again, the Syndra actually taking pretty good advantage of this mid lane matchup up against the Vigar, just using that range advantage to the best of their abilities. BJ standing on a ward. Yado knows this. Yado's not really into that. Oh, actually, Taki's got a much better angle.
Oh, and he gets the hook as well, pulls them over the wall. The cage goes down as well, and that is a dead Syndra.
Incredible. Really, really good stuff. Yeah, beat Boop, 100%. And that's like BJ forcing, Yado's positioning up into the top pocket, up into the jungler. That's gorgeous. The wraparound from Taki, brilliance from Saigon Buffalo. The communication between those two right there on full display, making sure that they make that play happen. And Fook 1, testing his mettle against the Volibear. It's a bear, man. Like, what are you going to do? Chop him with your sword? You're not that powerful yet, unfortunately.
But he is going to move on in. Doesn't have the W. BJ is being done with the concussive blows. Puddin will pick up that kill. Now Fook is the bear. They want to try and get onto Taki. If they can land this stun, which they do, the lightning is called down. And now they collapse in onto this Blitzcrank. And a double kill out of nowhere for Puddin.
Yeah, the first move off of the bottom lane for Puddin, partially because I think Huber was on bottom side a little bit faster, and so gets to come up the river and contest. When it's just the 2v2 of BJ and Taki, you never win that if you're Fook 1. But here, when you have the support in the third member, as well as the Braum that was kind of alongside you during the way, you have the ability to stun from a very long distance. And so that means that BJ doesn't really get a chance to actually auto-attack you or do all that much because he's just CC'd into Oblivion, and it opens up Cerberus' bottom side to a bit more play. We're even Stevens when it comes to gold at this moment. first dragon of the game goes to the side of Cerberus. We'll see what kind of impact is made elsewhere. Because again, BJ on the volley bear is what needs to kind of tip the scales at the moment. But currently has kind of had on and off in certain situations. Gets caught out in the river at one point, gets ganks off at another point. Just waiting to see what the ramifications of this are.
Pun just runs at Hazmed there. Very, very confident in the power of this Tahm Kench, but Hazmed is a very quick boy, manages to get away. So let's have a replay on how this all went down, because it starts with a hook.
Yeah, it was a very nice hook, actually.
Hang on a minute. Sorry, I have to cast this picture-in-picture, as now Putin and Shogun are brawling back and forth. The rocket will just about secure the damage, and I think that emote tells the story. Putin, that was a hair away from disaster, but he picks up even more.
Oh, he has to be careful about backing here.
This is such a bold call. He gets him with the lightning.
Got him with
the lightning.
It didn't even look like the circle was on him. I think Puddin got kind of confused by that too, because the circle didn't look like he was over top of his model, but must have just barely caught the edge of it, because he was able to kill him with just the very end. And if that doesn't tag, he wasn't in the brush. He wasn't able to auto attack unless the very first tick of the Q was enough to actually kill Puddin right there. I think Puddin actually gets the back off because it was too late in the animation to actually stop it. So
it was very
props
close
to him being able to land the E. It was very close.
Yeah,
it was a 700 gold shutdown to the volley too.
Yeah, I feel like Puddin made the read of, even if I dodge the lightning, I die, so I may as well just try and hope my back goes off.
Oh, what a pull from Taki. Again, it's into the face of a Braum, unfortunately, and so that actually ended up not being the greatest of plays. And then, of course, the gun setup is not optimal for dueling right here if you're Shogun, which is really unfortunate. Now, putting very last second, popping that ultimate, even though it's point blank, so it does reduce damage, maybe a stroke of deep genius, because it was just enough for him to be able to actually drop the health bar, I think, into the actual auto train.
I think he...
Yeah, that I think the back animation made him think he might have actually been further away from it, yeah.
Jinx
at that point, though,
Jinx wasn't in it, but of course her hitbox is, because your hitbox doesn't move. Oh, that's very close.
And part of that's also, like, what is Putin to do? Because Putin can't exactly move. If Putin cancels the back, you die to volley bear anyway. So it's like, you take your chance that the back goes off early enough, it doesn't, and you end up going down, and the gold goes over to volley bear, which does stink, because that does mean that, of course, BJ is on this bear and is a lot stronger in the earlier phase of the game. But you can see the ramifications of this, of course, is that top side got aggressed against, Rift Herald is in the back pocket, and then putting this gold into the Jinx, which is humongous. Bottom tower went down for Aphelios, though.
Yeah, this is the Shelly bargain that me and Yulway have often talked about. You don't want to do this against an Aphelios. It's so dangerous. He takes towers so quickly. So first brick will go to SGB regardless of this passage of play. Cerberus should be able to equalize it back up, so all is somewhat well. Putin is still extremely strong, but B&J now very far forward. I don't think they can actually seize on it as the reinforcements arrive.
Yeah. Now, the benefits of this actually, I think, ultimately go to Saigon, because it required the Rift Herald in order to get this, and the gold was split between 3 different members on the side of Cerberus, as opposed to the entire bottom tower went into the pockets of Shogun on this Aphelios. So it's, gold separation-wise, they absolutely kill this play. The gold is even on both sides, which is one thing to actually kind of communicate. It's just that, like, of course, it's not a positive play in terms of gold difference between the two, because actually, I think it was first tower did go down to Shogun, so it is gold positive, and it's in a better place too. So that's a phenomenal play from Saigon Buffalo.
100%. The thing to sort of go in as a counterpoint, not that I disagree with you, of course.
Sure,
is that Putin, not as much of it got put into him, but he did get 2 extra kills earlier. So now these ADCs are still at this parity. They are both scaling ADCs. Jinx Aphelios has been a standoff that we've seen all year. We've seen it for so long. They are going to continue scaling alongside each other, but oh boy, Putin is, scaling.
Yeah, he is, something. It's a little unfair, because there was a robot and a bear fighting alongside the man with many guns, but I suppose that Putin just has to get through that. It really does, doesn't it? A druid, a warforged, and a ranger walk into a bar, and that bar's name was Putin, and I guess they just ran into him head first, because that's what happened. What? I think he was auto attack walking there, and he happened to get vision of the Grump and did it, and he's like, what just happened? And just got jumped on him immediately.
Yeah, sneak attack definitely propped there. As That was a great catch. So far, Taki has been pretty excellent on this Blitzcrank.
Yeah.
Of course, he got a little bit bamboozled in draft because Blitzcrank is traditionally used as a Time Kench counter, but of course, the Time Kench was flexed. Didn't really want to go into the Braum, but has been doing well nonetheless. Has those 4 assists. His Aphelios has 3 kills. He's very, very happy. But Cerberus is definitely not done yet. They still have a powerful Jinx. Fook has been farming up well. He has that Divine Thunderer as well. And okay, they lose this dragon, but that's really nothing to write home about.
Actually, like, this is an interesting point, talking about the Tom Kench being countered by the Blitzcrank, because in later game fights, that's still going to come into effect. If Pun wants to use the ultimate effectively, you're still going to be saving somebody, and that's still an opening for Taki to be able to jump into a team fight and say, okay, I'm going to pull on the front line.
There's another interesting dynamic to it, because the Tom Kench, the mini rework that tried to bring him back to support, so the second mini rework, made it so that you give your ally a huge shield when they jump out. Yeah. That's a second, that actually makes the Blitzcrank counter even more powerful. Because not only do you hook them both in, they jump out with a shield, and then you ult and break the shield.
Yep, static shield or static field just breaks that shield immediately, which is fantastic. So it's a combination of things that really do favor Saigon, and especially when it's like, again, when it comes to the long range engage, you've got Syndra and you've got like Braum for being able to contest position. But if a Tom Kench gets hooked with Puddin in the mouth or with Yado or Fook 1 in the mouth, it's difficult to follow up and try to contest that if you're on the side of Cerberus here, especially with the number of ways that like they can fight directly on top of an area. Froggy puts down an E, you have Holosmed pressing his ultimate, and it's tough to encroach upon this territory that Saigon kind of sets aside for themselves. So again, Cerberus, their later game team fight is still something that we're questioning here as to how they're going to play it out. I'm excited to see, because again, usually they're very creative with how they actually end up playing team fights. We often laud Cerberus being one of our better team fighting teams, but this is not that Cerberus. This is a Cerberus that is a little bit of a shadow of its former self. Even though they won that second game, I wouldn't even call that necessarily a good enough win to say they're completely out of the rut they found themselves in recently.
No, one game is certainly not going to turn around, but a second game and a series win against SGB would be a very strong argument for them heading into the playoffs. Because even though this split has not been what they wanted, post-season, I should say, is still very, very likely for them. It would take an absolute SBTC miracle for them not to make it.
Absolutely.
Pun has had a little bit of a tussle with Hazmed. He is very far down in CS, despite constantly opting in for these trades.
Yeah, I mean, he is Tom Kench, so he's going for mostly tank itemization. He's not that concerned with it, but it's getting to the point where it's a bit problematic if he starts to fall behind in major itemization. Very nice.
They answer with one of their own. Can they just collapse? It's gonna be Pun in the middle team, but oh no, Huber, he's in so much trouble. Has just been hooked and taken down. Shogun benefiting from that one. Over the wall goes Viego with the Heartbreaker. Just a passage of play that's gone horribly for Cerberus.
Yeah, Cerberus, they're trying to find a way for them to actually get their team fights set up. It opens up all these opportunities for Taki on this Blitzcrank. I can't laud this pick enough. Again, I want to give props to Ren, their coach, for being creative with this kind of thing. Taki being able to manage all these different picks that he's kind of brought in over the course of the split. This is one that's interesting because Blitzcrank is not always a solution, but in this game specifically has so much skill expression as a support to be able to kind of tear apart Cerberus, and you're seeing that on display. Again, if Braum is removed from the equation, it's really difficult. That's a big engagement tool and a big defensive tool that Cerberus no longer has to actually work with. And it's questionable whether they're able to take a full-on engagement if they don't get the cooldowns out from all 5 members from the side of Cerberus. They're stronger, obviously, as a sum of their parts, is what I'm trying to allude to. And Blitzcrank is great at tearing apart compositions like that because you get to peel away one of those layers immediately.
Yeah, and of course, look, we can't praise Taki enough. This whole split, his whole career, really. Maybe the winter split was a little bit of an off split for him. It was an off split for the whole team. But he has always had this champion ocean. He can play anything. Blitzcrank is no trouble for him, and he has been having an absolute pop-off performance so far this game. Checking in on itemization just a little bit. Froggy, can we talk about that?
So
that's a Shirelia's.
It may sound crazy. It is a Shirelia's. I actually like it. I think it's cool. I think if Saigon wants to get in on top of Cerberus, there are ways that like Cerberus have to actually defend against that. And so the more move speed you have to make it happen quicker, the harder it is to actually interact if you're Cerberus. Because like that's the one way they lose a fight is if you go running at Cerberus and then they defend against it, then there's problems. It's a question of whether, should they be running at Cerberus? No. If they have to run at Cerberus, it's better to have the Shurelias, right? They shouldn't be doing that. But when the time inevitably comes that they will do that, they do have better ways to actually get on top of specific members.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Because I agree with that. I agree with all of the reasons that the team should have a Shurelias. Why can't Blitzcrank build it?
That is a great question.
Because I agree.
That I don't have an answer.
Shurelias is a great item. And I'm glad that they have one. But it is a support item.
I will say, like, Locket is something that also could be considered from Taki here that I don't think would be bad, and I think it's really good into AoE damage from any member of the team, but also specifically against very, very big instances of burst damage like Yato or like Fook1 who are going to drop damage immediately into members. So maybe that's the intention, is Taki wants to build Locket here. That's the play. Run.
Coming in, they will land that Q, but now BJ and the Veigar cage is cycling them out. Can't even press E. He can't do anything. In goes the bear, immediately has to flash away, but this lets Aphelios rain down hell onto Cerberus. They pick up 2. Shogun looking scarier and scarier.
I find it pretty funny because I think what was happening there is that Pun was trying to bait out the Blitzcrank Q from coming down as soon as he went to eat Huber out of that event horizon that got thrown down, but they didn't fall for that bait. Instead, they're just winning everywhere right now.
That he is, and they've just picked up another kill, and with Hazmed surfing into the back line, I'm sure it'll be 2, as this looked like a fairly close early game, but the mid-game rolled around, and it didn't look close no more.
No, it does not. That right there was the breaking play, because not only did they get away with a massive team fight because they pulled 2 additional kills underneath the tower, they dropped the Rift Herald for mid lane, they got the Dragon in their back pocket, they kind of did everything at once here. This is what I was talking about. So watch Pun, he was considering eating Huber, he gets pulled before anything else happens. I don't know if he thought he was out of vision or if he thought he would flash the hook as soon as the ultimate was about to come through, but it obviously did not work out. And once those 2 members are down, it's only damage remaining from Cerberus. So it's really hard to infringe upon this position, especially against Blitzcrank. They force the flash. More importantly, they're two-siding this, because Volibear's on Dragon while this Rift Herald is coming into the big tower, and Cerberus goes, we've got a health bar, we can try to defend it. Froggy's amazing play pushes Puddin so far out that it seems like Fook1 had engaged right at the last possible second, and it caused this little rift between he and Puddin that led to Puddin stepping back up and getting punished by Hazmed. So all of the dominoes just tipped over one by one by one for Cerberus, and ends up leading to this 4K gold lead in the second Dragon.
I want to ask you just sort of a bit of a fun question. If Veigar came out in 2022, do you think his E would be an ult?
That's a good question.
Because it is an ult.
I don't think
it is an ult power level spell.
Renata's W is an ult power level spell, and Renata's W came out.
It's true. That is
so
true.
I would say no.
I guess it depends who's designing it. But Taki has been caught out a little bit. The last sphere will just about do enough. BJ locked up with those concussive blows. They need to find a little bit more damage, but there's the cage. Look at the power of it. Not quite enough here, as now they have to retreat. Hazmed's going to turn around with the ultimate. Will pick up 1 and try and buy the escape of the last 2. Triple kill has been secured for the Syndra before the corridor is once again blocked off there by the Veigar.
That was really interesting because it was a description of what we were talking about earlier when it came to how Cerberus can win big team fights, and the biggest way that they can win big team fights is by being played into, and that right there was a perfect example of them playing into Cerberus when Cerberus has all of these tools to prevent them from getting into it, right? Like Hazmed got stuck forward, BJ got stuck forward, and both of them kind of have to rush in to accomplish anything in a team fight, and so right there was a good example of Cerberus being able to counteract that like kind of pushing play that comes through from the members that need to get really close to play do anything against the side of Cerberus. So I really like that because, again, it puts on to display the fact that, again, Cerberus is not out of this game. That's not where we're not like considering their goose cooked it or something at this point, because there's still a possibility that bags get fumbled. And this is a great example of it. He goes in just attempted punishing against Fook1. Shogun got really close. He almost tried to just burst down Fook1, who wasn't able to. And you can see everybody has to get so close in a fight like this. Look how quick that like Hazmed and BJ are right in the face of the remainder of this team, and they're able to just hold the line.
That's the issue.
No, he doesn't.
He didn't have ult until he used it.
We
are back onto a Baron. It has been secured by SGB. I don't know how they've done that. They've just caught resets. Pun has been pulled in as well. He will go down. Double kill now picked up for Froggy. They move forward. They are triumphant. They're wearing the purple. Shogun wants to get this one done as well. We'll be able to land that long-range snipe and use the Gravitum. Picks them up a third kill. Taki now here will go down. That was a little bit over eager, but it doesn't matter. They still come out massively ahead.
Massively ahead. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they came out with the death timer where like Cerberus maybe had lingered on the map a little bit too long after they had won that fight around the top side, and so on their back timers that was starting to catch up with the respawn timers that were coming through from Saigon Buffalo. And if you had noticed, Shogun and Froggy were the two that were left alive. They had their damage up. They just needed somebody to tank the Baron, and so they started up immediately once it looked like BJ, who was the first one down, had come back to that. He just runs immediately out to Baron, and they started right up. And Cerberus is then, they're caught scrambling with their pants down, kind of around their ankles, because they're like, oh, we just backed, now we won the fight, but we have to rush back out to the map. And you can see, yeah, this is almost certainly exactly what happened. They have to TP in, they have to make sure they're here. The Baron was already dead before anything else, and Fook 1 got picked before anything started, so there's not even a chance at a replay on the fight afterwards. Cerberus either had to sack this, or they just had to like be here faster because they were like a little bit too greedy off the back play. It's actually really nice kind of veterancy coming through from Saigon Buffalo being able to punish this.
Yeah, that it is. This is just really wonderful stuff. Look, yeah, okay, Taki just gets a little bit overhyped there. Whatever, it happens. It's not like the Blitzcrank really needs the Baron buff. It's not a big deal. Back out onto the map we go. Dragon in 20 seconds is where I think our teams will have their eye. But of course, with the Baron buff being up, it should be Saigon Buffalo ascendancy for at least another minute. Look at this big flank that BJ has, if he wants to activate
He's got a massive one.
Yes.
They know and it means that you just have to run into the team. They do. He's somewhere at least. Okay, that's a little far.
Can we look up a little bit, observers? Let's go. There we go. BJ has been a little bit caught out. A lot of damage onto Froggy as well. Takes the rocket. Can they actually kill him? Ooh, he goes gold. They should be able to get him on the way out, but they trade it back onto Fook 1. He just, I think, went a little bit too far forward. Taki lands another hook, but it is onto Huber. Husman is crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon right now, but they don't push up any further for him to actually need to rush in. They're going to wait for them to try and push into the bush. Yeah, it's a good ward spotting him out. They're just not pulling the trigger. They don't feel the need to at the moment. They want to wait for a potential hook and for Froggy to respawn. He does have TP, of course.
Drag them.
I feel like he has to go at some point.
He wants to find Puddin, I think, more than anything else. Yado is also a very important target. He just has to get one of them out of the fight, and I think it's over. Specifically Puddin, because Puddin is the consistent damage over the fight. Yado, when he burns the cooldowns are burned. There's not much to do. It's actually a nice set of plays. That was BJ on a great flank. Like, the flank setup was really good, but he was way too far. And he baited in Froggy, because Froggy burnt the Shirelias and the E, just trying to make sure that he was saved, and yet he was the one that kind of paid the sins for his jungler, making that big wraparound, not expecting them to know where he was, which was just a little bit curious to me. This was the play on the other side. Fook, what are you doing? Both junglers on these way too high of wraparounds, man. You're killing me.
Yeah, that was a little bit wild there from Fook. Maybe both junglers definitely getting a little bit silly in that play. But regardless, it ends up with Saigon Buffalo taking the Dragon. Was traded for that mid lane tower. Objective bounties are now activated for Cerberus as well. They are 5k gold down, as well as that soul point being picked up. So there could be a potential big gold swing if they can find themselves a fight. But with Husmed now 3-1, 2 items completed. And I'm doing the check. They do have an exhaust. They can delete cannon. I'm still a little bit worried about how Cerberus actually approaches team fights.
Yeah, it feels like Saigon are taking swings at them, and Cerberus just has to, like, catch them during the swing, right? Like, it's a matter of, like, the strike is made by Saigon Buffalo, and if they can't make it work... Oh, here we go.
They find Husmed. That's a good shutdown.
That's a great shutdown. Yeah, they thought they had a little bit more control of their bottom side. Actually, Shogun's in a really rough scenario now. He just barely dodges a couple of skill shots there that could have lost him alive. What a hook!
It's okay. He has flash to get out of there. So he's all right for now, but Shirelia's burned. They're moving forward. BJ has another huge flank.
BJ.
Bit obsessed with that this game, but he's a quick bear, so he can get on out of there. Huber! Woohoo! Needs to be careful of those big Calibrum shots. And now they collapse onto BJ. The bear's getting skinned as he jumps away, desperately trying to run, but no, Pun will claim him. And SGB, you just need to calm down a little bit.
Yeah, you have to get one cohesive fight together right there. Picked at the beginning was Hosbit, obviously, who burnt the flash and the ultimate in the midst of that play to try to keep himself alive. That's massive tools that you're burning for absolutely nothing just because you're too far up. I know they thought they had control of the bottom side here, but yeah, you can see Hosbit. Look how far Froggy's pushed. He thought he had space to work with to work himself into the bottom river a little bit more, but unfortunately, that's where Cerberus was kind of hanging out. That's where the pick had actually originated from. And again, the big wraparound from Pinche. You love to see the big wraparound plays, the big ultimates from the Volibear, but you gotta rein it in just a little bit, man. Like, just a tiny bit, because it's too far. You're down a member. You can't make that one work, and you're not trying to force into Cerberus. That's where they're strong.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit just a calm down kind of mood. As I want to just touch in with items again, because of course we talked earlier about this interesting Froggy build. We also have the locket for Pun. I think it's smart, don't get me wrong, against Veigar, against Kennen. I think it's really, really smart, but it is worth commenting on, because of course it's not completely standard. Everything else is looking fairly normal, though.
Okay, just riddle me this really quick before any other action comes through.
Yes,
when was the last time you saw more than one Banshees in a game?
I'm gonna break your spine. No. Okay. That's an inside joke. I'm not actually threatening him. It has been a long time, but it makes a lot of sense in this game, right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I have nothing wrong with it. In fact, actually, I think Hosmed is a genius for building this on second item, because it prevents anyone from, like, allowing, like, especially Syndra. He prevents Syndra from pushing him back out of fight or anything like that, or just, like, one-tapping him or anything that's going to stun him up, which I think is a genius play from Hosmed. It was just, again, something I pointed out was just, like, I don't remember the last game I've ever seen. It's very rare to see a Banshees in the first place, let alone two of them on different numbers of games. So.
It is true, but against a Blitzcrank, the value kind of shoots up. Because that is if you can block a Blitzcrank hook, it's a real paying for itself for times. As that wasn't even a sentence, but we're gonna move past it. They clear out the vision in the Baron pit, but aren't gonna start it up or anything too crazy like that. Just use the rocket just to make sure, and then they should be able to move in and actually get their own vision down. But it's so scary going into the dark against a Blitzcrank.
Yeah. I think Saigon Buffalo are trying to bait them into going for a dragon.
Taki.
No one's there to punish. I guess Froggy's kind of posturing in the area. What?
He thought
okay, he's blind firing.
Smoke.
Yeah, he's blind firing. It's fine. I get it.
But now Baron is started up. Cerberus are in range to respond. Fook has ult to get over the wall.
Put in, you were so far.
They are really far away. It needs to be a steal. It will not come in. The cage will keep them trapped as well. And the fires burn them down. Saigon get Baron and 2.
What happened? Like putting in Hugh just nowhere near that fight. They must have taken a back timer right before this, but that cannot happen when you're contesting against the Baron. They try to 50-50 it, which I give props to Fook for trying, but like that's the best they can give.
Yeah, and now as the mid lane tower falls, Saigon Buffalo are in full ascendancy. 8,000 gold ahead, a Cloud Soul on the menu.
I see. Okay, now I'm now understanding why they went over the pit, which is that they tried to pull a sneaky one with Pun on the smite as well to try to get it faster, but it wasn't enough to actually steal it away. And the two members, both going down, it just gives complete agency of the map over the side of Saigon. They're up 8k. They have a Cloud Soul now with 3 Cloud Drakes. Yeah, again, your ADC's not here, your sport's not here. You can't take a fight right now. They tried to go over. I think Pun was a bit late on that. I almost wish that they had gone over and communicated that better, because both of them with the smite is basically 1.5 smites of execution damage to potentially bring. And it was like 2,500, 3,000 health that it was at. They had a potential of stealing it legitimately right there. But unfortunately, I don't think that was a perfect play. They were kind of improvising because, again, I don't think they expected their bottom lane to have taken it back, or if they were taking it back, it was a very kind of mistimed one there from Cerberus. So not to put too much into that, because, again, I'm not trying to bully the two players that really haven't been around that long, but again, that's not a back timer you can make.
It's really not. Look, I mean, it's also, even with the double smite, you also have to play around the Veigar W, acting as a mini smite as well. It's very hard to outsmite Saigon Buffalo.
It is.
Ooh, Taki. He's getting a little bit spicy. He's splashing forward. There's the Shirelius. Oh my god, that's a huge cage. Into the follow-up there immediately from Husband.
Yes.
And Zippo Zappo, you've been deleted. As they pick up 4 kills in the blink of an eye. Fook is left wondering where his team has gone. As he is on the run while the rest of the team are pushing on in. And Saigon Buffalo have looked wonderful. Cerberus fought back in game 2, but it doesn't matter when Saigon are this good in the third.
And it's kind of incredible to see this actually happen because, again, Saigon Buffalo, they're running directly at Cerberus, which is the one way we said that Cerberus was going to lose. But the advantage that they accrued for themselves, combined with massive flank from Hosman, that's what we were waiting on. What is this posing? Like
That was shocking.
Oh my
that
goodness.
was shocking, Saigon.
That's teammate. Like, that's actually camaraderie.